All right. I did a video for Michelle Bannon yesterday, and I did one a little while back as well. And the idea was she wanted to do a dual axis or an overlay. So let me show you kind of what it looked like, just in a nutshell. So you have an order date. Trying to remember if it's a year, month, something like this, with sales in it, right? You got a bar chart like that, and there was like a split from memory, maybe not subcategory, just category, right? There was like a split like this, something like that. I think maybe there's no quarters, something like this. And then underneath, you also had a line chart. And the question then becomes, I think it's important that we compare to the last quarter. So it's sort of like a date comparison over time. So I started thinking, okay, what can we do, or what can I do to actually see what more we can do with this, all right? And I thought it'd be good for a lot of beginners to see kind of the process involved. So let me show you what I'm gonna do. All right, so pretend I have a company, right? Or anything I'm mapping over time. So let's get the order date in. Let's go year and let's go quarter. All right, so a simple analysis. We've got sales, or maybe profit would be good. Okay, let's change this to bar. All right. The idea is when you're giving results to a manager or you're presenting or something like that, a lot of the time, this is all you get, right? Because usually in, for example, Excel, this is all you get. So it's sort of like, here's your data, right? But as a manager, you're supposed to be like, well, what does it mean, right? And that's the Tableau side of things, is that you can use visualization techniques to actually say, well, this is why I'm actually giving it to you. This is why it's important. So let me show you a few things we can do. Let's say we're doing quarter by quarter. So let me put some color, right? So at least now we can tell the difference from one quarter to the next, right? Let's add some labels. Oh, my throat, right? So one of the things you can look at is, well, let's compare one quarter to the other, right? So one of the things you can do is you can actually switch these around. So just because it's in a hierarchy doesn't mean you can use it in different ways. So I can actually move this over here, right? So you can see now it's reversed. Instead of the top part being year, it's now quarter and then splits by year. So you can actually compare year on year, right? So this is all the quarters. So you can see that all the quarters here are going up. You can see in the third quarter, there seems to be unusual behavior compared to the rest. So every quarter we're increasing, but in this one, it's a little bit different. All right, what if we switch this to maybe sales? Because that's what I was using for my practice. Okay, so I got my sales here, right? And again, I can compare quarter on quarter. Now, to make this a little bit easier, right, to be even more visual, is let's change the coloring for quarter to year instead. So you can see this is all 2016, 2017, 18, 19, right? And we can use something called difference to actually show if there's anything where we had drops in sales. Because even here, it's not obvious, right, that there was a drop here. So how do we isolate that? Well, one of the things I do is I can duplicate this by holding control. All right, so we've got exactly the same data, top and bottom. Okay, I'm going to click on this. All right, let's just get rid of some of this labeling stuff, right? So I've got nice and clean. There's nothing there, and I'm just going to get rid of this label. Okay, and what I'm going to do is try and find the difference from one to the next, right? To see if there's any patterns. So I can go here, go quick table calculation, and go difference. Now, what difference does is it looks at one value to the next, right? So let's add all the labels in here and let's zoom in. Ugh. Right, so the difference between this one and this one is roughly 40,000, which is this value. All right, and then you do it for the next one. 160 to 110 is roughly 50,000, right? And then 214 to 161 is roughly 53. Okay, the problem becomes that because we're only comparing per quarter, I'm not interested in it going from let me zoom out actually. I'm not interested in it going from quarter one 2019 to quarter two 2016. That makes no sense to go from there to there. So I can actually go in here, go compute using, and go pane. Now, when I do that, it's only going to isolate this calculation in per pane, right? That each of these is a pane, right? Like so. Each of those is a pane. And then that means that this calculation won't happen. Therefore, our 0 point, well, that's going to be 0. Okay, so let me show you. Let's go quick compute using pane across. All right, so you can see those have now disappeared. So my reference value is always the first year in that quarter. Okay, so the next thing I can do is, again, it's getting there where you're actually telling someone a story, right? You're saying that year on year, if we're comparing quarters, it's always going up, except for this one, right? So let's get rid of this top one now. We don't need it. Okay, so now we got this. Now I want to draw attention to something. And one of the best ways you can do that is color, right? The numbers we're not interested in, actually. So you can get rid of it. Anything you don't need, just get rid of it. It's not important. Excuse me. I need my coffee, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw attention to it by adding color. So one of the things I see people do is they're going to bring sales in to color it. Now, if I do this, it's actually wrong because this has a quick table calculation, right? So I can't actually use this one directly from here. What I'd need to do is also go quick table and do the same thing, which is a waste of time. So instead, what I usually do is I just duplicate from here and drop it in here. And what this does is, if I've done any further calculations to this, so let's say I've gone inside and did a shelf calculation minus whatever, right, divided by whatever, I know that whatever the labels that appear are, or the coloring or the scale I use, these two are going to be identical, right? So that it's like a quality thing to make sure that there's no mistakes, right? Now, blue and orange doesn't really mean anything. What we're interested in is good and bad. So now we can go into the colors and change this to red and green, okay? Now, if I apply it, it's sort of there, but I kind of want to be more clear, right? So you can use this, which is stepped color, right? Now, what step color does is, instead of having a spectrum, like there's an infinite number of colors in here, right? If you zoom in and zoom in and zoom in, zoom in, ignoring pixels, there's an infinite number of colors. So stepped color makes it so that there's only a few colors, right? It's like a discrete color, okay? So if I click on that, let's get out of zoom, you can see it's cut it up to 5 discrete colors. So in each of these, it's a solid color. And I can just go 2, right? So 2 colors, good, bad. And it's going to use 0 as my color change point, right? Which is going to be here. So how do I know that? Well, you can click on this advanced tool and see. So by default, the center is at 0. You can obviously change this if you need to, but I don't because it's just automatic. Okay, and we're going to change these colors. It's a bit too dark for me. So we're going to click here, and let's click here. And I'm just going to lighten this up a bit. So maybe let's try this red. Okay, yeah, that'll do. Red, and let's give this like a nice green. Yeah, it's a nice green. Right, there you go. Oh, Jesus, way too bright. Okay, you can go like that. So that's one option, good and bad. But one of the other things I like to do is actually this one, red and black. Okay, so if we go apply, and we'll make this a little bit lighter, right? And the reason I do red and black is because when colors are dark or gray, the human eye doesn't really recognize them as important, right? So it's actually, that's exactly what we want, right? We don't want people to care about when profits are up. We're trying to communicate to managers that profits are down. So when you give them something like this, right, with the quarters and the years, and if I put this into a dashboard, say, okay, we get rid of this and just size a little bit for my screen. Okay, so let's say I gave him something like this. I wouldn't be going, quarterly sales. That's too weak, right? I would say something more like significant drop of 40,000 in 2018 quarter 3, right? Investigation required. Something like that. Something like an action, like we need action. We need to take action kind of title, right? So let's make this a lot larger. I like making it blue, right? There we go. And then what I would do for this is I would go annotate and I would go mark, right? And then I would, put this actually in a sentence, okay? So I'd format this a little, and actually I'll show you the formatting I do. So we can go Q3 showing significant loss of sales. First loss, only loss in, what is it, 4-year history, 4-year history, right? Something like that. And then you can put the value in there if you want. Okay. I'm not going to get too fancy. Something like that. Oh, hang on. 16, and let's go red. Right? Something like that. And to put a border around it, which I like, the few times I put borders, is I'll click on it and go layout. Let's put I put a pretty light border. I don't like putting black because it's just too much. Okay, now for some reason, oh, okay, no, sorry, my bad. You gotta go format and then do it this way. So if I go black, it's just way too in your face, right? And the reason it's not showing too much is if I go like this. So I prefer kind of a light gray, enough to show that there's a border. That's maybe too light. Maybe something like that, right? At least then that's what's important. The other thing you can do is, again, what I always think about is how do I minimize as much as I can, right? So I can actually get rid of this header, okay? And I can put labels in here, but only for minimum and maximum, okay? Because one of the advantages of Tableau is that if you hover, you can see the value anyway, right? And actually, this value is only showing per pane. So we don't want to do it per pane. Where is it? I want to do for the table, right? And what that does is it gives you like a relative value. So usually what managers do is they go, well, that's 160, that's roughly half. So what we're talking like 40, right? But because it's not really what we're talking about, don't show it. You don't need that information. It's kind of just to put things into context, right? So it's enough for me to say, it's like, look, Q3, the max we've ever done is 160. So if this is like a third, let's say that's 50K, good enough, right? This is fine. All right, it's growing, it's growing. Here we had a little bit of a dip, but we still made a profit. The issue is here, this is this is significantly different from just giving them, sales over time, right? So let's put this side by side actually, right? Two completely different stories. Same data, but two completely different stories. And this is kind of the graduation from just giving data to someone to actually giving them actionable data. Two different things. Okay. So I could go to town and just talk about this all day, but I'll probably stop it here. If you have any comments or you're interested in learning more about this kind of style of visualization and techniques, give me a comment and I'll try and film a video for you guys. So I hope you enjoyed and see you next time.